and welcome to a very special edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast featuring our discussion of the HBO show Westworld, episode 6, entitled The Adversary. My name is Foxman, and I'm joined by Lee Sizemore's unending stream of urine. What's going on, Mothman?
It's a stretch.
You didn't like that?
No, I didn't. But I'm a little more interested in why it's a very special edition as opposed to just a regular edition.
Yes, we have been working on a special song, a special treat for the listeners, a parody. Well, you know what? Should we just, without giving a huge intro here or spoiling anything, should we just cut to it and let them judge for themselves?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing. Prepare for an eargasm, everybody. We'll be right back.
Boob Tube Buddies presents MRB.
Here comes the man in black. Here comes the man in black. He's gonna solve that maze, yeah.
Take it back to the day where it all began. On his death cast a shadow all across the land. Westworld looked like it was poised to fail until the man in black and he posted bail. M.I.B. the hammer to the nail. Only need one match to escape from jail. If you recognize him, don't be sucker by temptation. Don't thank the man, he's on his fucking vacation. Legends are true, ain't a ball of yarn. Best hook you not to lost when he enters the barn. Posts always pray, and when they end the shoot, they go to pull the trigger, but so he's over easy mode. He wants the real stakes out on the London Royal, searching for the snakes. Still wanna go where the shadows blaze. Smack dab in the middle of a motherfucking maze.
Here comes the man in black. Villain of the Westworld. Here comes the man in black. He's gonna solve that maze, yeah.
Here he is, mysterious. His black hat, plan of attack, paid back is furious. You think to cross him, don't try to call him the Western Messiah. He'll cut your throat and leave you hanging high and dry on the ride to pariah. Hand stops bopping when he's knocking at the door. Guns stop blazing as the bodies hit the floor. Head starts scratching like you've seen him before. But war's coming and his black hat's gunning for more. He's got a black steed, ready man, he's taking the lead. His greed driving in beside him, Teddy's starting to bleed. Indeed, Wyatt's being quiet, but on his game of speed, you know he'll go until he get it, he won't ever concede. Cause he can't stop, won't stop going alone. Yeah, he'll be riding up on you now and breaking them bones till he takes the prize of his enterprising spree. 2 claps for the MIB.
Ride with me, just ride with me, just shoot with me, just shoot with me, just kill with me, just kill with me. Ha ha, just ride with me, just ride with me, just shoot with me, just shoot with me, just kill with me, just kill with me. That's right. Here comes the man in black. Villain of the Westworld. Here comes the man in black. He's gonna solve that maze, yeah.
Oh my goodness, we're back. That's a platinum record if I've ever heard one.
Oh yeah, the Sweet Lonely Island ripoff special.
Yeah, the Weird Al Yankovic of podcasting, which Nathan actually does sound a little bit like Weird Al Yankovic rapping.
Yeah, I could definitely hear that. Man, I like his flow.
He does have some sick rhymes.
And Mr. Falsetto over here, the fucking cherubic angel, Mr. Mothman, very impressive.
And you didn't do too shabby yourself. Those are some pretty sick rhymes, and I don't know, I was impressed. You have a really good rap voice.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's like pretty aggressive and intimidating.
Well, you know, I come from the mean streets of Altamont, you know?
That's true. The funny thing is, I think there was a prior episode of, this podcast covering Westworld where I sang that line.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, where I went, "Here comes the man in black," and made that spoof, because we do a lot of singing on this show. And, I don't know, it kind of germinated, and we figured, let's go full throttle on this bitch.
Oh, shit, I didn't realize there was a genesis like that.
But I think an exciting thing is that going forward, we're going to try to do, some more creative endeavors outside of just the Audible ads, maybe at least once per new show we tackle.
Yeah, we've already talked about, and I won't give any extra information, but we've already talked about maybe The Walking Dead being our next target.
Mm-hmm. But the only downside to these endeavors is they're pretty involved, and yet we don't make $1 million.
That is true. So just a couple of quick bits of information following up on that. You guys can check out all of our content at www.boobtubebuddies.com. I will make sure that this song just by itself is up there too, so you guys can look at that. We're also probably going to have a video version of it. Won't give any more info until it's up, but look for that too. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit, or just email us the old-fashioned way at boobtubebuddies@gmail.com to get in on the conversation. And we actually have some listener mail to get to later in this episode, so we always like to discuss it, and we'll definitely give you the proper shout-out, too.
Yeah, we love people being part of the conversation. There's never been a time where someone has asked us something and we didn't cover it on air, because we're like that.
That's what we do. So real quick, why don't you do a rundown of the other shows, and then we'll jump into it. And I have a correction real quick. Let me just say, I've been calling the main town in Westworld Stillwater. Which,
even in these notes.
Yeah, that is true. Stillwater is the band from Almost Famous. And so it's actually Sweetwater is the name of the town. So fuck me. 6 episodes in, I realize.
Hey, no worries. It happens to the best of us, right? So we also open up on this episode, just one little reference thing in regard to the song. I love that the first song we did a cover for happens to basically regularly cover 90s songs, but on piano.
Yeah, specifically Radiohead.
Yeah, it is a lot of Radiohead, but we heard Nine Inch Nails and other things, so I just wanted to throw that in there. As far as other shows we are doing, as we mentioned, we're doing Walking Dead. We might be doing a little spoof song there. We're doing Divorce, American Horror Story by the Boob Tube Buddies, Ash vs. Evil Dead, and then we're also about to tie a bow on Luke Cage probably next week. I
think so, yeah. We're going to be recording 11 tomorrow, so yeah, either next week or the week out. Yeah, I think so. Although we're probably going to be doing Doctor Strange next week too. I've already got plans to see it this weekend.
Oh God, it's going to be a podcast-a-thon.
Yeah, I know. We got a lot of shit to do.
So much good stuff. So many hours to talk about it.
That's true. Okay, so this is without a doubt the longest intro we've ever had with that song. So let's just go ahead and hop into the episode. As always, we don't necessarily do it sequentially. We break up the storyline so we can really kind of deep dive into each character. And I think that we're going to start with Maeve's plotline today.
Yes, we are. So Maeve, as we saw last episode end, she's up and self-aware. We've been seeing a similar parallel between her and Dolores, kind of continuing to remember. But Maeve seems to be...
she's on a whole other level.
Yeah,
really.
she's on a whole other level because Dolores is almost coming to be, but still inside of that reality, whereas Maeve's almost exclusively take place outside of that. And we actually get a little scene where she is trying to get back to, the Delos headquarters.
Sure. First, we open up with Radiohead's Fake Plastic Trees playing on piano, which is a very rare song in the show that I was able to spot myself because I'm a huge fan. And I think that this song is amazing. And I thought that it was just a great conversion to piano, too. What did you think?
I thought it was a nice little piano ditty. I couldn't point out the song otherwise. I'm sure if you played it for me, I'd recognize it, but I still didn't recognize the melody just listening to it.
Gotcha. Yes, the... Fake plastic one. You never heard that song?
Like with the instrumentation, I might recognize it, but even seeing your notes and listening to it again, it wasn't ringing any bells.
And listening to my beautiful Tom York voice.
Yeah, for the audience that can't see, he does an even better Tom York dance.
And my face looks just like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you're right. Basically, Maeve is trying to get herself disposed of. So she and Clementine are talking downstairs. She goes upstairs with a rough customer. And basically just insulting his manhood and, really just trying to get him to choke her out, like David Carradine.
Yeah, pretty dark scene. She's just making fun of his tiny little penis and then grabs his hand and puts it on her neck. And it doesn't take much for him to, kill her. I mean, granted, that's kind of the appeal of Westworld, but still, like, seeing that type of stuff, kind of brutal.
Yeah, and basically we know that after she's killed... she's probably buried and then gets taken through the Mesa tunnels up to the Delos headquarters at Mesa and then ends up right back with Felix again.
Yeah, so now her and Felix are talking and they're kind of having a moment, and he's explaining what she is, and it's kind of this weird existential crisis where she's not really understanding that she isn't quote unquote real, and how are they different. She even feels his hands and says, we feel the same. I don't understand. Well, I was born, you were made. It's kind of like the key line.
The character creation stuff, like the video game type stuff, was really heavy on this one. I mean, basically, like, we're looking at her attribute matrix the whole time, and it's really cool. I thought just the way that they pair it back and forth with her having this realization about how programmed she is, to the extent that in this first episode, she literally has a panic attack that shuts her down.
Yeah, she's like, as he's continuing to explain that she doesn't really have original thoughts. Because she says, like, I don't do anything I don't want. Like, she's very strong-willed, and he's saying, well, that's just because that's how you're programmed. She struggles with it, but he actually shows her his little, like, iPad-looking thing from the future, and every word she says comes up on the screen, and then she's trying to improvise and can't do it, and that's when she, like, just glitches down and shuts down. But eventually,
I was just beginning
to love. You love that line.
It's my favorite, and probably easily the most stupid thing that I do on a regular basis on this show.
But then he, uses his hacking prowess, like he brought back the bird from prior episodes, and gets her back up and running, at which point she wants to take a look around. She wants to see, more, because she's seen the slaughterhouse before. She wants to explore. Felix is trepidatious about it, but eventually just puts some clothes on and says, why not?
I'm curious to see what you thought about this, because I've had a lot of conflicting feelings. First off, like, I mean, obviously he knows how risky it is. You hear him say, this is so fucking stupid, as they're walking around looking nervous as hell. But, like, I get that because he is, an official, and as long as you walk around like you're supposed to be there, maybe everybody's so engaged in what they're doing. But, like,
everyone is holding an iPad, plucking away, doing the same thing he is. So outside of the outfit, he does kind of fit in.
Yes, but this to me is in stark contrast with what we've heard in other scenes about, we know everything that you're doing here. And maybe that only particularly applies to the top brass, but still, somebody taking, like, I don't know, one of these robots on a tour around, and it's not like she's in some, the outfit that she's in, even, like the nightgown, that to me would stand out a little bit. And the fact that he is very clearly in the livestock smock over him and looks different than everybody else around him. And the fact that Teresa and Bernard, like, they know about they know everything about everyone is what we keep being told. And yet we're supposed to just look the other way when a robot is paraded around on multiple levels that she's not supposed to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most of and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like most of the surveillance has been of the robots in the park when they're active, and the person that seems to really have the third eye when it comes to everything outside of the park and otherwise just seems to be Ford.
He says we know everything about all the Delos employees, so he makes it seem like the top level. To me, that's what I got. I think that maybe with a science fiction show there should be some suspension of disbelief, but to me, it was a little hard to swallow that nobody had anything to say about it.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I don't think we know enough of the hierarchy and what the different positions are and what the roles are to see if it would raise a red flag or not. I could easily see it raising one, but I could also, like, see it not.
Just so I don't bring up this exact same complaint later, I'm going to go ahead and lump this one in. When Bernard goes down to the sub-basement level later on in the show, when there were robots, when Ford was moving around down there in, I think, the first episode, it triggers a whole team led by Stubbs to go down there, and Bernard goes with him to check out whatever this disturbance is. So now Bernard is just walking around down there unhindered, like looking for secrets and being secretive, and this somehow is not a blip on anybody else's radar.
I thought what triggered it originally was that a active robot went on, like, lit up working where it shouldn't be at.
I guess that's true. What, the robot that Ford was drinking with?
Yeah, like I thought it was that an old host or whatever was turned on, and that brought him down to the sub basement. Not that he was down there and there's laser detectors and stuff.
All right, yeah, I guess maybe I could buy that.
So we'll have to see. I mean, the plot and the conspiracy type stuff thickens by the end of this episode, so we'll see who's been pulling the trigger on certain things too.
Okay, so the tour with Maeve really kind of is punctuated by this Welcome to Westworld video that we get that has, it's Elon Musk's ex-wife is the actress. Her name's Tallulah something, and it's peppered in with footage from all these characters that we know, including Dolores and Teddy are on there. But then you get Maeve with her daughter, that to her is really only known to her through these dreams she's recently started experiencing.
Yeah, she only understands the reveries, yet she's seeing a image of her prior build. And just 2 quick notes, Elon Musk's wife has liked one of our tweets in the past, so we're kind of hot shit there.
No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal whatsoever. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but the bot that was getting like the flesh tube and like its color was filling out.
Arteries?
It was the Will Forte bot.
Oh, the face?
That you had screenshotted. It's the exact same face. It's the Tandy man coming to life.
That is really funny.
So I saw that and laughed out loud when I realized it was the same bot.
I was sure that you were going to mention the fact that we had the discussion about how does the man in black do the transfusion, and we kind of talked about, well, maybe you just pour the blood in through the mouth. Obviously, that's not the case. They have all these arteries and things.
Yeah,
so now that makes that scene a little bit harder to buy.
Yeah, that was a weird scene. Just throw some blood in there and hope it works. But I don't know. That almost to me though was like a rules of the game type thing. So you think of like in Resident Evil, you grab and eat a green plant and you're healed. And a lot of games have a health pack that wouldn't really heal you. So is just drinking or pouring blood in just part of the game that'll heal robots?
I guess so.
I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll see that as a reoccurring theme
to go along with what you're saying right there, Ford is basically the game genie because he comes along and fixes Teddy just by touching him and uttering that one little phrase.
Yeah, he's a cheat code just to get full health. And
Game Shark Ford over there.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to mention too is before they go out in this little thing, they're talking about the attribute system. They make a note that Maeve is at a 14 in intelligence. And she's like, well, out of what? Like out of 20. And they explain that that's the highest any robot goes to basically keep them in control. And the hosts are the highest, which is what she is, and they're 14.
Yes, that is true. Also, bears mentioning we get our other song for this episode, which is another Radiohead song. And actually, funny enough, I actually have this song on my iPod, and I have the Vitamin String Quartet is this group that essentially just does quartet string music of popular songs. Mm-hmm. And that's what my kids have fallen asleep to and had play throughout the night, like all of their, through infancy and through being toddlers. And it's just funny. Like I've heard this song a million times playing for my kids, and it's Motion Picture Soundtrack is the name of it.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, now that they're old enough, you can just play them Westworld.
At the very least, I'll play them our MIB.
Yeah, there we go. But they get back off their little walk. Maeve is a little bit, like upset, I guess would be the word, based on seeing this. Like, she's still trying to understand the gravity of it. And that's
her Westworld's being turned upside down.
Mm-hmm. And then Sylvester comes in, being King Douche, and kind of wanted to interrupt things. And at this point, he says he is going to turn Felix into QA.
Is this the hentai thing with you now?
Yeah, because he has the robot dressed into a little gown.
Exactly.
But Maeve isn't having it. She pulls a scalpel on the bitch.
Yes. He's like, you can't hurt me with this. And she says, your friend is very talented. Calm down, Sylvester. And then she just basically is like, one of these things you guys programmed into me is I know how to read people, and you're going to want to fuck me over the second that you get a chance to. And but you're not going to. Either I can help you or gut you like a trout. And then puts the knife up against his stomach. And he's like, I mean, just the look on his face, he's in panic mode.
Yeah, and they continue to talk. He says that essentially to do what she wants, which is to, upgrade herself and her attributes, that he would need a builder code, which he eventually figures out how to get. And she brings up the fact that she knows he can take the systems offline, and that he essentially has a side business of letting other people, other workers bang the robots by deactivating them temporarily.
Oh, yeah.
Which happened with, remember when Elsie in a prior episode went up to a dude and had him on camera? It was likely due to Sylvester, making that happen.
Oh, definitely. 100% that is what was happening right there. Which, by the way, Sylvester, Felix, those are popular cartoon cat names. And we had the bird in last episode.
Was it Tweety Bird?
Well, I mean, they didn't call it Tweety Bird, but, we had a bird in the last episode. Not to mention, she's a little bit kind of like a bird in a cage. And don't you think that there's some sort of symbolism, I guess, to that sort of, that they are the cats and they have the quote unquote canary? I don't know. There's something to that, right? Not anything that I can articulate well, apparently, but but I just thought that was interesting. Do you think that really Felix is the name that they're going for, and Sylvester, that? Those are just such random names to actually be cat cartoon names.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there also might be an episode where they kind of explain. We've talked a few times about, are they ever going to show outside of Westworld and, kind of take us outside of Delos and all those other things. And maybe there'll be, some kind of social movement where all the popular names are simply from cartoons.
That's funny.
And then we just realized that everyone, there's got to be a cartoon character named Bernard, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And Ford.
We need a Clifford for sure.
Yeah, Clifford the big red dog. So anyway, that's a working theory. Fans, please flesh it out and make it make sense.
Yeah, because right now I did a terrible job. I was so proud of myself for realizing the cat thing, and all I wrote down was Sylvester and Felix. Cat? Probably should have thought about it before I started.
You basically wrote the
recording.
Headline of an article.
Yeah, exactly.
But didn't have any kind of.
And then decided I'd go live on air and just go off the dome.
Oh yeah, but that's really all there is to the scene, other than the fact that Sylvester eventually gets in, and they move her intelligence. What do they call it?
I actually wrote down all of them real quick. I'll breeze through them, and I'll end with the one that you're talking about. So we have empathy, candor, charm, coordination, courage, tenacity, humor, sensuality, which I'm sure yours is all the way up, buddy.
I was going to make the same joke. I was going to say at the end I was a 20 on sensuality.
I just had to stop it right now because my patience is at a 3. That's the next one. Self-preservation, cruelty, humility, meekness, vivacity, which I'd say yours is pretty high on that too. Mm-hmm. Imagination, curiosity, decisiveness, almost done, self-preservation, and the one that they move all the way up, bulk apperception.
Which I initially read as bulk appreciation, and I just thought of Foxman 2 episodes ago talking about big old dicks.
Oh man, I definitely had some appreciation for that bulk. Actually, really funny. The person who wrote in the fan mail, for whatever reason, punctuated the fan mail with a small picture that she had taken a screenshot.
Of all the penis army?
Yeah, the penis army. I loved it. I told her that you had already made it your desktop background.
Yeah, no, I read. I will say my favorite part, though, is that you begged and pleaded for people to write in and talk about your song being more, or your Audible ad being more than a 3.5 out of 5. And not only do we get a response, but it's an essay. It's 7 paragraphs and not one mention about your song.
I know, seriously, it hurts so bad.
But yeah, anyway, I think we'll hear some positive things about our song, don't you?
Well, that's what I thought last week too, so fuck me, right?
Yeah, but anyway, you can ride the Mathis train.
Oh God, fuck that guy.
Anyway, her bulk apperception, which is basically intelligence, is now a 20, 6 points higher than any robot's supposed to be at. So shit's about to get real.
Oh yeah. So I am really excited to see what's going to happen there. But for now, we move on to the Man in Black and Teddy's plotline, which is probably the most straight up action for sure, I'd say, during this episode.
Yeah, this is definitely the action set pieces. So they're basically riding, off in the desert, going towards the maze. Teddy sees the scalp and sees the maze, and he actually starts to talk about, at least in his narrative currently, it is an old Native American myth, but I actually corrected your notes to indigenous person.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
So what he says here, and we don't like to go through line by line normally, but this I thought was important. He says, the maze is the sum of a man's life. At the center, there is a man who has been killed over and over again, but always clawed his way back to life.
Arnold.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely sounds like it, right?
Yeah, I'm there with you. So, I don't know, a lot of interesting stuff happens this episode, but you continue to get the feeling that, Arnold isn't dead. Even if his like actual organic self is dead, you definitely feel like, he's the ghost in the machine. And maybe it's not full on like AI, but
poltergeist in the fiber optics, by the way, is the term that I coined last week.
Oh God, didn't you?
I love it. Oh my God, I was seriously riding that gravy train all the way to the bank, motherfucker.
Yeah. He started
and overdrawn my
GoFundMe.
account there. Yeah.
GoFundMe is like, people tell me that's a great way to describe Arnold.
If you like it, send in $1. Okay, so at this point, they decide, they are approached by some people riding up who tell them that Pariah is closed. And actually, we get a little scene later in the control room where they're talking about Pariah is almost at the limits in terms of how many guests they can have in that one sector. Mm-hmm. So more than likely, they start sending out things to deter other guests from going there because they're at their max population that they allow themselves to have.
Yeah, they have like little narrative save falls to basically say, don't keep riding and spending your incredibly expensive trip going somewhere that there's no room.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of interesting to see that in these zones, basically, that they have limits of how many people they want to have in there. It's almost like when the servers start to get bogged down when you're playing an MMO and you're in like one of the towns because that's where people tend to congregate.
And then all the frame rates drop.
Yeah, exactly.
Dumbass lag.
For sure. So anyway, they end up, Teddy says he's got another way more treacherous. And they ride through the same graveyard that Dolores and William were in last episode.
Yeah, so we might have some additional paths converge. Not only has Dolores and Williams now converged and kind of following the same plot line, but maybe Teddy and the Man in Black are looking to join soon. So they're looking
now this
down.
This is what it's like when worlds collide.
Oh man, that might have to be one for something eventually.
Way too hard to sing. I can't do that shouting.
And the fact that no one remembers that song.
That is true.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, you said that is Rob Zombie's cousin. Rob Zombie was on The Nerdist this week. Oh shit! Should I be shouting out other podcasts on there? Fuck it, whatever.
What's wrong with that? Yeah.
It was really interesting. I really like Rob Zombie. It was very smart, introspective sort of guy, and just cool and down to earth. It was a really fun interview to listen to.
I'll have to listen to it. I enjoy him as well. I actually just watched 31, his newest movie, which is basically about killer clowns that
that's what he was on there to pimp out,
abduct people and kind of have this murder game. And it wasn't his best film, but it was a good time.
I'd watch that.
Pretty scary. Anyway, they're gonna go. They're looking down on this camp full of soldiers. So this is the more treacherous path. And Teddy's pretty brazen. He just wants to shoot their way through.
Yeah, and I love the Man in Black's like, Ford gave you some extra vinegar back there, but took away some sense.
Yeah, because when Ford kind of gave him the boost, he may have changed some attributes.
Yeah, maybe. But basically, this ends up being because he says like, I need you alive for the business with Wyatt, and it's kind of like one of those missions in a video game where you have to escort your dumbass NPC that keeps trying to get themselves killed over and over again.
Have you ever played Resident Evil 4?
I've played a lot of them. That's not the one where they go to Africa. That's the one right before it, right?
Yeah, so Africa's 5. So Resident Evil 4 was kind of like this groundbreaking game, considered one of the best games of all time. But it was also the first game that kind of drastically changed the format. Like all the other ones were more like survival and like, solve puzzles, whereas this was still scary, but basically an action game. But there's a stretch in the game where you're having to protect like the president or senator's daughter, and she's constantly on a different, like, you can see her off in the distance and you're constantly just having to snipe and protect her. and it's such a fucking pain in the ass.
Yeah. I hate those missions. They're so GTA is riddled with them. They're very frustrating. All MMOs are too. I mean, basically any game that you play where you have a gun in your hand at some point, you do a companion mission.
Yeah. And then any kind of game where they also have like the friendly fire turned on for those just makes it even more just ugh.
Yeah, fuck that.
Anyway, I feel bad for them. I'd be having to deal with this shit.
Agreed. So they end up basically stealing the clothes off some soldiers that are straight off from the camp, and they're riding through, and Teddy, of course, gets recognized. The guy is like, Flood?
Yep, and they remember, how do you say the town? Escalante?
Escalante.
So this is what we've seen. This is part of the new narrative that was given to Teddy, where he was working for Wyatt, so you see a replay of that. And at this point, MIB tries to stand up for him and says, like, hey, you've made a mistake, but it's not too soon to retreat. But that's obviously not going well. So shots are fired. A little bit of a fight ensues. A much bigger fight happens later, but they're basically captured.
Yeah, and Man in Black takes a fucking nice knuckle sandwich to the jaw right here.
Yeah, and then they both end up...
It's really... is that the first time we've actually seen him take any damage?
No, maybe?
I don't recall him ever.
I know there's that one time where he wasn't hit, but a glass was shot right next to him and caught him by surprise, and then he had to go in and shoot. But this might be the first punch he's taken.
Okay, well, it ends with them basically, they're tied to a covered wagon, and Man in Black's trying to negotiate his way out of it, but the dude who has a branding iron that has the maze on it, he is not really for that. He basically tells him to kick rocks.
Yeah, but Teddy's able to kind of break out of... they're both tied to wagon wheels, and Teddy's able to break out of his. And I thought Teddy got hit with the branding for a minute as he kicked it up at the other guy, but I couldn't really tell, and they don't really follow up on it. But
I don't think he did.
Story, they both cut out, and then the best part is that Teddy gets on a Gatling gun and just mows motherfuckers down.
So wave after wave after wave. And right now I'm playing Gears of War 4 online with friends, and we do Horde mode over and over again. And when you get to the boss waves, you get Gatling guns and different things like that. And
oh, Jesus, you have Gears of War 4?
Yeah.
I've been considering an Xbox One just for that game.
Oh, I would love it if you got it so we could play online together. I don't have anybody to play the mission with either, and I know you like to play missions.
Oh, man. Hey, guys, we might postpone the podcast for a few weeks.
Anyway. You just let me know, man. I am down anytime. I'll stay up late for that shit.
There we go. And now we move on to the forward line, which is small, but seemingly significant.
Oh, very much so. So it starts off, there's this little village in Westworld, and I'm pretty sure... well, tell me if I'm wrong or what you think, but I thought that it was the same town. Thanks, asshole. I thought, well, you said Man in Black had the bottle get exploded by a bullet next to him. I thought it was that town, the one where we see Lawrence's daughter and wife, and Man in Black kills his wife. It
didn't catch me as being the exact same town, but it also didn't, I'm also like, no, they are completely different, so...
I thought the little cathedral thing in the background looked similar, and honestly, probably the architecture would be very, very similar in a lot of those small towns. So maybe not.
Yeah, it definitely has a familiar look, but I don't know if it's the exact same town.
Yeah, okay, I agree. He's walking with a team that is helping to facilitate the build out for the new storyline, and he essentially tells them to stop the demo outside of town because he doesn't want them to have to destroy this whole town. And he goes walking around and he sees a maze carved into a tabletop. And I don't know if it's always been this way because he definitely seems troubled by the sight of it. But my God, are we seeing the maze more and more and more as each episode progresses?
Yeah, last time I think we counted it was like 4 times. And this time we've seen the scalp already. We've now seen this. I think last time we really talked about it was more about just more parties being privy to it. And then is this the first time Ford's been exposed to it?
I do not recall. I don't recall offhand.
I feel like it might be. I think this is supposed to be the first time that he sees it in the timeline we've seen, which is why he pulls out one of Arnold's old sketchbooks and finds the maze.
Yeah. Maybe. Either way, I don't want to guess about that without having read, but that sounds right. I don't recall him seeing it any other time, so I can't dispute that. The next scene that we get with him, we could kind of just go through real quick. There's not a whole lot to it, but he's looking through. Well, first off, his office is fucking dank. Am I right? Like that is a
so
sweet office.
Sweet. And we've seen you like on the entrance to it. You have an old like Series 1 playing piano. And it's a really sweet get up.
Oh, it's gorgeous, and like with all the faces and stuff like that, it's suitably creepy. While also being basically what we associate, not even just with Ford, but Anthony Hopkins, kind of like tasteful and refined tastes sort of thing.
But all like a Haunted Mansion almost, but still kind of very gothic almost. Like a modern gothic creepiness. But
yeah, he is a classy yet creepy motherfucker.
Indeed he is.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So basically he goes through and looks at some old schematics, and inside of this little diary looking thing is a drawing of Dolores and also of the maze. So maybe you're right. Him seeing the maze has like made him want to go back. Like, I know I've seen this somewhere before. And I was thinking maybe this is like Arnold's old, I don't want to say diary, but maybe his like the thing he doodles in. Yeah. So his diary.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I guess it's a diary. I really just think it's like his design book from when they were making the park. We know that Ford has been talked to about the maze because Man in Black talks to him about it last time.
Oh, he is aware of it, for sure. He's been involved in conversations about it.
But I think the difference is the maze has been playing Man in Black's been playing for 30 years, so he expects him to maybe be finding this obscure thing out. He doesn't expect to walk by a public area and see it carved into a table.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is, because it's supposed to be something that's buried deep within Westworld, and just open mention like this, and that just doesn't really align with, I think, the way that it's supposed to be. So, okay, let's jump forward. We're going to skip the scene right now where Bernard and he interact at that house. Yeah. We'll get to that in Bernard's plot line. But for Ford, he goes into the woods. He sees the boy that we find out later is basically a young robot version of him. And the boy leads him to the dog, which is dead, which made me sad. I know you're also a dog person. So anytime I see a dead dog, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, anytime you just see animals, killed on screen, it's a lot more entertaining to see humans killed on screen.
Definitely, it really is. Animals killed on scene is just like,
yeah. I mean, I think the difference, it's kind of a human reaction that you deal with people all day and you watch people on TV all day, and plenty of them are unpleasant. So you see someone die, like, I don't know, you can find a way to relate and not bother you, but unless you're walking around, I don't know, like junkyards that are protected by Rottweilers, most people have pretty positive experiences with animals. So there's just this universal thing where you're upset by it. Whereas, if you're living in like, I don't know, the middle of the outback where there's tons of wild animals and stuff, maybe it doesn't bother you. But every time I see something like that, it bugs me. But I think this is actually fairly significant because he interviews the boy about it.
And the boy lies to him, which Ford realizes.
Yeah, which is also concerning. But he says he killed the dog because the dog caught a rabbit and killed it. And then someone told him to put it out of his misery, which was Arnold. And this is a story that, he's shared before. Ford shared about his childhood.
It is the greyhound that he had that got off of the leash, or they let it off. And the moment they did, it spotted a cat and went over and tore it to pieces and sat there not knowing what to do with itself afterwards. And I mean, this is very clearly a callback to that, especially we know it's from Arnold, and Arnold built all this thing, the boy and the little house there and all that as a gift for Ford to kind of look back on his childhood, like that pleasant moment in his childhood. But now he's showing him like
the not so pleasant moments.
That's exactly right. So I don't know. That was pretty juicy.
Pretty juicy tidbit. A juicy enough tidbit to lead straight into an Audible ad.
I agree. Let's cut to an Audible ad. When we come back, we'll do some fan mail.
All right, we'll be back.
Whoa there, little buddies. Gus McFoxman here. Welcome to your Every Desire Realized is brought to you by the good fellas at Boob Tube Buddies. They're cooking up new dick and fart jokes as we speak. Me? I'm just over here enjoying this book, Lonesome Dove, one of the great classic Western tales. A whole damn series to be precise. Watch your step there, partner.
This is so stupid.
Shut the fuck up, Mothman. I'm doing this, goddammit.
Sorry about that. You can go to www.audibletrial.com/boobtubebuddies to get your free month's trial. It's free for you, and it's a great way to support the podcast. Don't squat on your spurs, little buddies.
And we are back. That was a nice little new Audible ad. Good job, buddy.
Oh, thank you very much, Mothman.
Yeah, I mean, I originally didn't think it was going to be a good idea. I even rudely interrupted you, but I'm sold. I like the finished product.
Oh, very nice. I like that your voice sounds like this, like the ultimate nagging voice.
No, I just had a frog in my throat, which we've all heard in the podcast.
Yeah, you're Kermit the Frog.
Kermit the Frog in my
That's so
throat.
much better than mine.
Speaking of Kermit, we have some fan mail from Kermke. Is that how you say it?
Nice. That was pretty close. Well, yes, at KRRMCC on Twitter actually emailed us this, but it's a set of theories and questions, and I'm going to abbreviate it for the sake of the podcast because the theories are very well thought out, but a little lengthy to read the whole thing on air. So essentially, the first part is her theory is that maybe the entirety of what we're seeing is VR. Like the whole thing is virtual reality. No one is real on the show yet that we've seen, or at least very few people. So like the guests, the hosts, even the staff, this is all occurring within virtual reality. What do you think about either that or a section of that being the case?
I hope it's not.
That would be a bummer to me too, because it would take the importance of anything that we've really seen and kind of grind it to dust.
Well, I mean, I think there's still a lot of important ethical questions and examinations. They don't necessarily change if it were virtual reality. Because to me, to me, the show works so well actually as a metaphor for kind of what we are going through to an extent with VR and those challenges there. And having it be VR is kind of similar to, the end of a movie, like the character waking
sequence.
Up, right?
Yeah,
and
that's what I mean by like, yes, you do learn the lessons. You're right. That is a tangible thing that you gain from it. But everything else that would have occurred, like all the important consequences, everything else is just wiped. The slate's wiped clean. It's a reset on the show.
Yeah. So I think that would be a disappointment. I also think, for it to be VR, I think we wouldn't see the staff aspect if that was what they were going for. We would just see the world and maybe, and when I say staff aspect, maybe what I should talk about is the butchers. I don't think we'd see the butchers necessarily. We would probably only see the staff that's looking at the city and organizing, and they would basically be the control room, like looking at the VR experience.
Agreed. Because if it were all just kind of fabrications like that, what would be the point of getting into the small minutia of it? Well, I don't know. Actually, Westworld is fleshed out that way, so I don't even know that that's actually a good parallel. So
the only thing I could think of, and then we don't have to continue go. This is an endless rabbit hole, but maybe the VR experience is like different price points, because of the technology and scope. So maybe, it would be a weird VR experience, but maybe the butchers are just the lowest rung. It's like the poor person VR experience.
Yeah, I could see that. That's what, the people like you and I can afford.
Yeah, if that. Because even Felix says, he can't even afford a day in the park.
Yeah, and we can't even afford to see him not being able to afford a day in the park.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so at KRRMCC, we're not in on the first one, but I think that we are in on the second one, which is... The other theory is that this is all leading to a war between Ford and Arnold/Dolores, and obviously a lot of other factors are going to come into it. She says, Maeve could even possibly be used, but I actually, as she says, is a weapon of Ford's, but I would dispute that because since Dolores awakened Maeve, I would think if anything she'd be on Arnold's side.
Yeah, I mean... I also think at this point, whatever Maeve's initial intention was, so maybe they do reveal that it's some grand scheme and Ford's, tricked Dolores somehow through a prompt to awaken Maeve. Who knows? I think now that her, whatever that goddamn thing's called, bulk appreciation, is up to a 20.
Apperception.
I think that basically takes her off the chain of whatever side she would have been on.
Yeah, she's on Maeve's side, but I think it would probably align more closely with what we are aware of being Bernard's side of. I'm sorry, Arnold's side of things. Okay, but let me get to this next part, because to me, of all the things that she wrote in here, this was the part that I found most interesting. She was saying that Ford has defrosted what is his equivalent of an undead army in advance of the upcoming war. Okay, so in the first episode, we know that when they're going down to the sub-basement level to find this robot that's been randomly activated, which is the one that Ford is drinking with, they say that the air conditioning or the chilling, preservation stuff has broken down there. Well, what if Ford basically broke that to thaw out this army a little bit? So that is kind of what she's saying here. And considering he's at the heart of it down there, and these are the old robots that he seems to really be connected to, that I could kind of buy in on a little bit. Especially because those would be, you would think, the hardest ones to tap into. Of course, that doesn't even line up because Arnold gets into the brain of baby Ford.
Yeah, no, I definitely would buy that aspect. I mean, we're seeing a lot of master strokes from Ford, some of which are very obvious, some of which aren't. That seems like one that's been veiled as something else. It's either that, or maybe they have like slightly unhard flooring and he broke the system so that every time he walks by, he gets to see like penises and titties jiggle.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ. Of course, that's where your mind would go, you goddamn pervert.
Whatever. You just had an ad talking about us cooking up some dick and fart jokes, right?
That is true. I guess you've been hard at work.
I had to cook up a few for this week.
Okay, well, you know what? Especially that last part of it, I am fully in on, and I have been reading up nonstop, and I haven't seen anybody else talk about that undead army thawing down there, and that being some of Ford's. So, first off, kudos on the originality, and also I like it. So
I do too.
At KRRMCC, again, thank you very much for writing in. Appreciate you listening to the show. Let's go on to Elsie Bernard, Teresa, and Lee Sizemores. We're going to group them all in together here because they're basically the upstairs Delos team.
One quick thing that just came into my mind, if her VR thing is true, and our spin to it that only the poor people would be able to afford like the Felix experience.
Oh, God.
Then it makes sense that no, I'm batting an eye when he went through the control room, because that's like the peak of their poor experience.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right? Because it's like, well, no, like, they know what's up. That's just part of their, like, they get to see some parts of the Westworld, but never actually get to go there.
Yeah, that's true. That would be like their final mission right there.
Yeah, exactly. That's the boss level. There's no boss. Anyway.
Oh, no. Poor us.
So Elsie is continuing to meet with Bernie about the satellite uplink. I don't know about you, but I do not remember it being this fucking giant. I thought it was like a little fiber optic looking thread, and instead it's like a fucking digital SLR.
Yeah, no, it was big last episode too. I remember thinking like, Jesus, how did that get past anybody? Like that thing, its big part, like the actual, not the like the relay antenna part, but like the actual control module part of it, it would be like the size of a thin person's forearm.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's Kate Moss's forearm.
Yeah, I don't think you could cram that in there at all. You'd have to take out the fucking bones.
Pretty much. So maybe it was Dolores in her like kind of dream vision where she's doing tarot deck reading with herself. That's the more like thin fiber optic one. Yeah. Like just the tiny little string she's pulling out. Yeah, and that's kind of what I had in my mind. But yeah, this thing is like a camera on a tripod.
Yeah, true. So she tells Bernard that the hosts are being used for industrial espionage, which, can I give myself a little pat on the back? I guessed that maybe it was all had to do with corporate espionage last week. Pretty close, right?
I mean, you got espionage, right?
And I mean, corporate and industrial, that's pretty damn close.
Kinda?
Man, you are such a dick. I have one thing right, and you're goddamn... Oh, man, you and your vivacity need to get turned down a notch.
We'll have to reprogram me for next week.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, man, if I could reprogram you, this would be a totally different show.
Oh, I agreed.
So much more flaccid penis talk.
Yeah, maybe next week we should start with what our preferred like attributes would be for each other.
Oh my god, I love it. Can that be our game next week, please?
Yeah, instead of a
That's
game,
a great
we'll just,
idea.
And then for the rest of the episode post-game, we have to try to adhere to it.
Oh no.
So
that's going to be the most difficult episode to try to do, like, as we're going into theories, but also trying to be mindful of our new
being
personalities.
super sensual.
Oh god.
And vivacious, as you gave me.
I do not want to see you as sensual as you are right now.
So think those choices. Anyway.
Okay, so Bernard goes downstairs. There's flickering lights, overturned chairs, dripping water. And did you see the statue in the background?
I did, and I actually thought, like, didn't that look like the Man in Black from the old movie?
Yeah, the original gunslinger. I thought that it was like, just like, and I paused it. It really is like the perfect outline of Yul Brynner.
Yeah. Okay. So I wasn't crazy. Like, I did think it looked like the Man in Black, but a little different than Ed Harris. And I was like, maybe it's the old one. So I'm glad you freeze framed it.
Oh, for sure. And people were talking about it online too. But to anybody who's seen the '73 Westworld film, that's a clear, to me, not necessarily even like or more like an Easter egg, and less like because people might look at that and say, oh my God, can you believe that? Like, how does that now tie into the old movie? I could see it being more of just like a old tip of the hat.
Yeah, I think I don't think they're trying to tie it to the movie.
Agreed. So he sits down at like an old computer terminal and he starts going through everything. He links it with his fancy new iPad thing. And I did not exactly love look at that, science. Like, I thought that was just a little cheesy.
Well,
I get that it's supposed to be funny, but... This
whole entire plot line... I was thinking about the episode of Luke Cage we reviewed where you basically just said mad science mumbo jumbo.
Yeah,
that's a lot of what Bernard and Elsie do to kind of give, like form and texture to what's going on that basically would just equate to lines of code. And if you actually talked in that dialect, it would lose everyone and actually would be quite boring. I mean, it makes sense, but it's also weird to me. I think
the entire floor looks like it's off the set of a Silent Hill movie.
Yes, I love how it's totally creepy. Like, to me, it was meant to be. Yeah, it was meant to be creepy and queefy. Man, I've lost my train of thought. No, creepy and creepy.
You're like Terrence and Phillips. What are those? What are the girls? Terrence and Phillips. Like, remember the one episode of South Park where the female Canadian performers start doing the queefing thing?
I do, barely. I remember it being ridiculous. Oh man, what about that queef, eh?
Queef.
I thought you had my friend, buddy. Anyway, it reminds me of, like, there's a Silent Hill game that's just an abandoned old amusement park.
You really were going to say Silent Hill right there?
No, I was going to say just a creepy old amusement park, which is kind of a horror movie trope.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Silent Hill does go into, because that's what Westworld is, right? It is a theme park. So
sure, yeah.
I didn't think the motif was, like, it didn't make sense, but it was, I don't know, a pretty big departure from the other stuff. But one thing I always find interesting is the graphics they decide to use for technology in these future films. Because everything is really minimal in black and orange and blue and like...
Yeah, we're like in fucking MS-DOS prompts all of a sudden.
To an extent, yeah. And that's kind of what we saw with Maeve on their touchpad as well. Like a similar outline, which I didn't necessarily buy for something that's meant to be the future.
Yeah, can I please get a little fucking UI in these scenes?
Well, and the fact that he's like talking to something like Siri, but it responds back only in text.
Yeah, good point.
Right? I mean, so this is obviously... a very outdated version, but at the same time, a lot of the newer stuff they're using seems to be similar design.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know if I like that. But, okay, so mumbo jumbo aside and techno babble, which, by the way, there was a programmer on Reddit who pointed out that the code that they were using here was a combination of Git and then also Android programming. Like, I guess looked at the line of code and freeze framed and went through the stuff. So... I don't know if anybody out there finds that interesting. Cool. And
if you're that guy that made that post, get a girlfriend.
Hey, we're just sitting here pouring hours and hours into a Men in Black crossover song, and we have girlfriends, wives, kids, all that. Well, I mean, not girlfriends and wives and kids. But
For those that don't know, we're
big
both
love.
Mormons and have multiple girlfriends and wives.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, but so Bernard sees that there are 5 hosts that are not part of the new system. And obviously that stands out because that is 5 essentially unmonitored hosts that are in the park. So he's going to follow up on that.
Yeah, so he decides to bring it up to, well, actually, he's brought up to Teresa's office separately, right? And she essentially just says, hey, Ford knows about us. It's a conflict of interest. Our departments, like, work hand in hand, and we're supposed to hold each other accountable. Our relationship's over.
Yeah, which I felt a little bad for Bernard. You know, it never feels good to get rebuffed. Not by your girlfriend, not by your wife, not by both in our case.
No, but you know, when you're as ripped as he is, he won't have any issues.
Oh, nice callback to my Muscle Watch edition of Bernard last episode.
Yeah, I mean, I have a memory from every episode of you just talking about the male form.
Hey, what can I say? You know, I'm appreciative of good physicality. I mean, that's why I keep myself in such good shape. Fuck you, don't laugh.
Kind of.
All right, so Elsie and Bernard are talking, and Elsie's like, man, the corporate overlords are going to be so grateful when I blow the lid on this shit. They're going to thank me with a title upgrade, a room upgrade, and unlimited Mesa Bar tab. Way to shoot for the stars, kiddo.
Yeah, pretty good. Do you think it feels the same if I say Elsie says that the industrial overlords are going to be grateful?
Oh, fuck you fucking bastard.
Doesn't quite roll off the tongue, does it?
No, it doesn't. Corporate would have been a better word for them to have used instead of industrial the first time. Boom, point in my favor.
God damn. All right, touche.
You're not going to keep going on?
No.
Okay. I assumed that there was just a Skype cut out there, but I guess you were just being awkward.
It was
Okay.
actually me holding out a burp.
Oh, oh man. Okay. Well, I know of at least one audience member or former audience member who certainly appreciates what you did there. But all that really happens here is Elsie essentially is like, oh man, Teresa, she's going to be the first one to go. Maybe I'll get her room. And Bernard obviously is like a little sensitive about that. He's like, yeah, you know, like she's doing her best. And Elsie's like, tough shit. Lot slipping through the cracks.
Yeah. Bernard defends her, you know, because they just broke up and he obviously cares for her. Elsie didn't know that, right? Like it was a hidden thing.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think she knows. Obviously, Ford does, and Teresa does, and maybe other people do, but that's it.
I'd hope Teresa knows that she was having sex with him.
I'm just saying, like, those are
dark.
the 3 people that we know are Bernard and
Yeah,
Teresa.
no, I got you.
I mean, unless
I was
she's
just joshing with you.
Unless she's a little rhubarb.
So anyway,
right?
now Bernard walks into the control room. Teresa sees him up from the office. And he asked the tech about Sector 17, which is where there was those 5 hosts that hadn't been working prior, or were off the grid, so to speak. And she says no techs have even been there. So at this point, he's going to take it upon himself to do a little bit of an investigation and go to this area. So you actually see him coming out of the ground in like a cool little clear elevator and then walking through the wild.
And I like here that we actually see the elevator go back down into the earth. I thought that was kind of, I mean, obviously we assume that something like that happens so that people can't just stumble across it when somebody's taken up to the park. I thought that it was kind of cool to actually see the practical effect of it going back down.
I did too. They showed just enough of it too. They didn't dwell on it. Like it cuts eventually to his feet and just moving on. But you see enough of it starting to go down that you're like, okay, so everything hides itself and just a little more of like nice little world building, right?
Exactly. Just a nice touch is all that it was. And just like they didn't dwell on it, we're not going to. He ends up going to to this house, and the house is absolutely taken out of another time period. It does not fit the Westworld motif one bit. And he ends up walking in. And I mean, I wouldn't say that it's modern at all in the way that everything else is at Delos. But it definitely isn't like the old country time sort of stuff that we've seen in Sweetwater and all the other towns.
Yeah, it seems, it seems like, I don't know, late 1800s, early 1900s maybe, like rural area.
Yeah, that to me was a little bit bizarre because maybe what we saw...
isn't it supposed to be Ford's childhood?
Yeah, and that would work if they were in 2016 currently. and that was his childhood. That wouldn't work if it was in 2070, which is, you assume that it has to be at least minimum 50 years in the future for all this to have been done.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem is we haven't seen the outside world. So, I mean, it's a completely different timeline. It's fictional. So
it could be a whole different world. It could be fucking Easteros, you know?
Yeah, like it could just be like a completely different fictional world. It also could be that, certain technology, I don't know, for all I know, everything was like rural and terrible until 1957, and then aliens came and dropped all this technology on them.
Sure.
I mean, you're right. It doesn't mesh with like, if we're trying to think about
I get it. There's a million ways it could be explained away. Okay, so he walks in, and there is a family there, and the man that is there, the father, is absolutely 100% the man that was in the picture that Bernard was shown by Ford. That was the picture of a young Anthony Hopkins and Bernard. Uh-huh. And the man is him. So what did you, first off, did you catch that?
No.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out there. That man, obviously, Bernard sees him and he says, Arnold, because he's seen the picture of that guy and been told by Ford that that was Arnold. Is it possible that maybe Bernard is Ford's brother? I'm sorry, God damn it, not Bernard. Fuck. Arnold? Arnold is Ford's brother, because the only way that it would make sense that he would look the exact same as the father. Why else would he have modeled the father to look exactly like Arnold if Arnold doesn't grow up to look similar to what Ford's father looks like here?
I think Ford and Arnold were twins, and Ford killed him in the womb.
In the womb?
Mm-hmm. And he's just been a ghost that's gotten into the fiber optics.
But Arnold is the one who created all the tech.
Maybe.
So you're just being funny?
Maybe the first android Ford made was called Arnold, and then that person made all the tech.
Okay. I mean, that could be a legitimate thing, but very clearly, if this is, exactly what Arnold looks like, according to the picture that Bernard was shown by Ford, then that leads me to believe that he's his brother. Like, do you not think that that's at least a legitimate thing to think after seeing that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's an unfounded guess.
Okay.
Or assumption.
I think that, there are other ways of explaining it, but to me, that would be my leading theory.
What if the true answer is very disappointing? It was just budget. And they had to pay that guy scale, so they wanted to give him at least one more scene. So
no, it's a glitch in the VR, actually.
Yeah, they meant to have someone come put CGI and make his face slightly different, give him a big nose or something, but anyway.
They had to spend that money towards, I was going to say The Get Down, but that's two different networks.
Yeah, joke fail. But my favorite scene here is there's two things I like. One, immediately the Arnold essentially is going to attack Bernard for trespassing, and none of his commands work. But the boy kind of pleads, but then immediately Ford just shows up, all-seeing eye. And kind of they have this conversation.
Speaking of his eyes, did you see what happened with his eyes here?
No.
They glow. When he gets Arnold, or the father, to take his hands off Bernard, he looks at him, his eyes twitch to the right a few times, and if you look at them, and I paused it multiple times to double check, they absolutely dimly light up as he's looking to the side. It's like he has some contacts or something that he's using to transmit this stuff to them.
Oh, fuck. Now I have a new theory.
Okay, let's hear it.
Arnold, it was real, but he made Ford. And Ford was his first android.
That is definitely a possibility.
He basically took over him, superseded him, and got rid of him.
I have wondered about the possibilities of that too. Basically, maybe Ford was Arnold's first creation in the park. He eventually gifts him the ability to think freely, he passed the Turing test and everything like that. Yeah. And then eventually, Ford gets a little bit jealous of the fact that he's still kind of a slave to Arnold and all of Arnold's whims, kills him, and then assumes the role of basically the other creator of the park.
Yeah, what I said.
Yeah, I'm following up on it, you douchebag.
No, I know.
That was actually the reason why I'm pointing out the whole eye thing, is it seemed a little bit robotic.
It definitely, yeah. No, I did not catch that, but that sounds like a robotic thing. And then Ford shows off the little boy, has his face open up, and you realize it's
like the Demogorgon.
Yeah, that's true. But it's a series 1, and he talks about, he's made references to this in the past, but there used to be so much beauty. These are the ones that Arnold built, and he maintains them. That's why they're lasting this long. But he kind of has a fondness for, I don't know, it's kind of people that like vintage cars or old technology. It's got a certain look, even though there's so much more that the new stuff can do.
Yes, and at first, because I was thinking the robot thing a little bit on the second time through, so I was noticing, wait, aren't there supposed to be 5 of them, and there's only 4 people in this house? And I'm thinking, oh shit, wait, is Ford maybe like being registered as the 5th one who is not actually showing up under the new system? But no, the dog walks in, so the dog would be the 5th AI. That didn't add up.
But that's kind of what we have here. I mean, Bernard and him have an exchange. Bernard's not really comfortable with this, but the ultimate like throw in your face
again
argument wins is, wouldn't you want to see your dead kid? I mean, this is basically my dead kid.
Again, yeah, if Bernard is a robot, Ford knows how to pull his strings there too. Like that's like Teddy's version of saying anything to do with Dolores being in danger. You get him to do whatever you want. With Bernard, Ford just constantly uses his dead son as a get out of jail free card for any of his bad behavior.
Yeah, it's like, if you don't pick up after yourself and do the dishes, you're never going to see your dead son again.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, what a dick.
I know.
Okay, so let's cut over to Teresa real quick. And she is talking to, I guess, like a board member or something is the way that it seemed, speaking in...
An Asian board member?
I didn't say it, you did. I was going to say, I can't think of a more appropriate thing. Definitely it's Japanese, Chinese, something like that, Taiwanese, Korean. They're speaking some sort of Asian language.
Yeah, I feel like it's potentially the people that Teresa is leaking the information to, and not the board of director.
That is actually a really good point. Yeah, it's somebody, and yeah, you know what? I like that. I'm going to stick with that. That's a good point. But
because otherwise, to me, what is the point of the scene otherwise at all?
Even showing it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's only to tie into Elsie's assumptions.
Good point. Okay. So then we see her walk up to Lee Sizemore, who is out on this very fancy sun deck. You know, it's the Lido deck, and he's out there. Have you ever been on a cruise?
No.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, well, it's cruise joke over your head, I guess. But so Lee Sizemore
cruised right over my head.
So Lee Sizemore just eating his little fancy foods, drinking his margaritas. We hear a boom in the background, and we know, and you can see the pained look on his face. So clearly, that's Ford doing all of his demolitions and stuff for his plot line. It's like literally painful for Lee to be hearing that. But can I just say, and I literally never complain about this show, Lee Sizemore's character to me does not really fit the tone of the show. Like, I find his I hate to even say it, I find the performance a little off-putting, and even the writing for him.
I mean, I don't know that the writing doesn't, like, he's a fully fleshed out character to me.
Yes.
That makes sense. Like, you know, he's gotten this design job. He thinks he's hot shit. But ultimately, I think he's just a pawn for Teresa. He's not meant to be likable.
But the way he's so over the top, like, to me, it's like it's like throwing a stage acting performance into a cinematic sort of setting. It's just, to me, it is too over the top.
I guess, but I mean, I've met people like that.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, to me, it doesn't ring as, it doesn't feel believable. To me, it just rings of, give me a point to this character, otherwise, why is he in the show? Because I just don't like him, and he doesn't seem to be a catalyst for anything, right? Like, what would happen without his character that would be important?
I mean, far, nothing. I'm sure that something is going to tie in, but yeah, you could very easily have had everything that's occurred that's important on the show without him.
And to the point that Teresa makes, like, look, I know you're upset, but if the board gets tired of Ford continuing to, like, go over budget and push back deadlines, then eventually he's going to be fired and you're going to have a job, so step it up. I feel like his character basically could have waited until this point, and it didn't have to be him, but just someone that if they're threatening Ford and then they're just interviewing candidates to take over the job, like young whippersnappers that have design experience and all this stuff, then you could introduce the conflict of a competing vision with Ford and not, I mean, because these episodes are packed of information.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the board that might, that could possibly be looking to eventually replace Ford, we see him flirting with some hot Betty over at the bar, and he, starts really shooting off the hip here and telling her all sorts of stuff about like inner conflicts with different departments and like basically shitting on Ford. And we end up finding out that this lady is a board member.
Yeah, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, so he gets cut off. Basically, she walks away, and then we have him in the next scene, which tie back to my intro to this episode. He starts urinating all over the 3D map of Westworld in the control center.
Yeah, and he has a lot of pee.
Yeah, it's an unending stream, I'd say.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a real Mothman.
Yeah, a real Mothman if I've ever seen one. So then they meet. It's just kind of like the punchline, essentially, but nothing actually happens from it. But I don't know. He's not really liking his job, but maybe he's with a sexual interest on the board. Maybe he'll rise to the occasion.
Yep,
Boner
Charlotte
joke.
Hale. Charlotte Hale, an executive director from the board. And yes, nice boner joke. Cooking up those dick and fart jokes as we speak.
Don't sit on your spurs, little buddies.
Yeah, but she walks up and, oh, nice. She walks up and stares at his little peepers and says, we've met.
Yeah, and then he kind of, I don't know, seamlessly puts it back in his pants with one fell swoop.
Yeah, I always notice that when it's either like a sex scene or a peeing scene or whatever, like, man, like people just really get their little tater tots in and out of those pants pretty quickly. Like sometimes sex scenes will be like zip, inserted, already thrusting.
Yes,
it's like
that's what happened at the beginning with Maeve.
Yeah,
he was just immediately in.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes, and I'm not saying we need to waste a lot of time on foreplay and priming and stuff like that. I'm just saying sometimes those scenes happen, and I'm like, that's not the way that works.
I feel like you get a pamphlet that says, like, just to be aware, sex bots are pre-lubricated. So, like, because otherwise, I just don't think anyone would try it like that. And I don't know about you, but I just kind of take my pants like off basically.
For
like,
sex or for peeing?
For peeing. Like I don't do the like try to use the ridiculous hole on both the boxers and the pants. Do you?
Well, first off, I don't. Are you saying like you basically strip down to Winnie the Pooh style attire?
No, I'm just like I undo my pants and take it out over the top.
Oh yeah, over the top, definitely for sure. You said I take off my pants. I'm just imagining you sitting there like you're fucking Piglet all of a sudden.
No, I do the butters. My pants just drop to my ankles and I lift my shirt up.
You know, our friend JP, just because he's the master of shock value, in high school, he'd in any urinal in any bathroom he'd go to, he'd walk up to it and pee and drop his pants down around his ankles and lift his shirt up to his chest, and that's just how he would pee. And like,
and everyone just thought he was like mentally handicapped.
Basically, I mean, that's not too far from the truth.
Yeah. Oh man.
He's not listening.
No, he's not.
Okay, so yeah, let's get back into it. We have Bernard and Elsie again, and at this point, she is going in the elevator to go find this beacon that's transmitting to the satellite, and she has found out it is a Delos satellite, so this is an inside job, and furthermore, the bicameral system is somehow broadcasting through this network to different robots, and she is kind of, I'm just making up this term here, I don't think they used it, but basically she's triangulated the feed and figured out that it's in this old abandoned theater.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good way to describe it. She goes to that old abandoned theater. She has a flashlight.
Ooh, can I say something about the flashlight?
Yeah.
Shout out to Reddit. I did not write down who put this up, but it was by far the most upvoted thing. And it was a picture of her with the flashlight, which is the 3 flashlights, and it said, "Here's your technology of the future. 3 flashlights." Because I mean, it is kind of funny, like that it's just so I don't know. It's just like such a cheap way of making a futuristic looking thing. Like it's basically 3 mag lights that have been like electrical tape put around them.
Yeah, there's duct tape on them. Yeah. I think it's just meant to be a heavy duty light, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting how they try to reimagine household objects, but otherwise they're like, I don't have a purpose to make this really cool, so let's just, I don't know, put some glitter on it.
Yeah, exactly. But did you notice in this place there were lots of statues and artifacts and artwork that kind of look like they'd be straight out of Roman world or medieval world? And I'm not saying it's indicative of anything like that it's come from those parks, but I was looking at some of the stuff and I was like, that looks straight out of the set from the 73 movie.
Yeah, I felt like they had some of that in was it last episode when they go to the big like orgy brothel hedonism place?
Yeah, you mentioned it. We talked about it on air about how it looked like it'd be out of Roman world.
Yeah, so I'm wondering. I don't know. I'm wondering if that's like an old discontinued storyline they'll eventually reference, or as we've discussed before, is that like season 2 they finally reveal it?
Yeah, I wonder
maybe
that.
After maybe this season ends with the robots finally starting to hurt humans and like a little bit of a war starting. And then the next season actually just kind of starts in a different world and then seeing how they, coalesce.
Yeah, I don't know. It might even just be, again, a nod to anybody who's watched the original movie. So, but anyway, she ends up finding the relay under a floorboard on the stage. And so we cut back to Bernard, who is talking to Teresa, who's smoking a Stinkle Pop. And she assumes that it is a social call, but he's actually there about business time.
Yeah, but he gets a call from Elsie saying, hey, the leak is, I think, Teresa. Probably don't tell her anything.
Yeah, and at first he had ignored her call, but he takes it the second time because she called right back. And he's like, I'm going to have to call you back.
She's like, no, Bernard, I got great information. Teresa is crooked.
Yeah, that is basically what happens. Old crooked Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
She's nasty.
Crooked. She's such a nasty woman.
Anyway, basically, Bernard does call Elsie back, and she's like, listen, so Teresa was using the old bicameral system, but someone else was too. And basically letting him know that, listen, like, this is a serious deal. He was using the older models to change their prime directives. Like, they could lie to our face, maybe even hurt us or the guests.
Yeah, which is obviously the turning point. And for those that have seen the 73 movie, that is the key plot point of the movie, is the robots not just start having like cute little reveries and, being conflicted about
the reverie isn't even a thing
in life
in the 73 film.
No, it's just about them going bad.
And zero explanation as to why.
Yeah, there's just there's a poltergeist in the fiber optics. I think they said somewhere in there.
Fuck you. TM, motherfucker.
Yeah. Don't you take that, Crichton.
Yeah. Yeah. You fucking giant 6'9" motherfucker. So she thinks it's Arnold, and he's like, and Bernard's like, are you kidding? Like, Arnold has been dead for 30 years. And she's like, yeah, well, he's a pretty prolific coder for a dead guy.
That's true. Like, with all the stuff that's going on, all the things from episode 1 where Elsie and Bernard have just seen like robots talking to Arnold, all of their loathsome, they know something's up.
For sure. So she ends up, she's got stuff to do. So she hangs up with him. She's transferring all the data. All of a sudden she hears a...
Yeah, and we get,
Come on, that was a good creaking floorboard, right?
That was a good creaking floorboard. And then she hears like a little... and she's like, oh God, is there someone playing bongos in the next room? But no, it's someone that's kidnapping her. And she gets grabbed by someone in black sleeves and black gloves. Episode ends. Horror movie
No,
style.
hold on. Episode doesn't end because then Bernard gets a phone call and they say that it's just like totally quiet. And then Bernard says, listen, I have a very specific set of skills.
Yeah, it becomes Taken 4 Westworld style.
Yeah.
He is ripped.
Okay, let me ask you, now that we've gone through all this, what did you think about the episode overall?
I really, really liked it.
One of the better ones, right?
Yeah.
There was some action. There was a lot of intrigue. We got a lot of plot lines mixed into it while still managing to go deeper than superficial. I think the only one we really set aside here was William and Logan and Dolores, right?
Yeah, they were just left out completely, which honestly I'm fine with. And this is the only episode other than the first one that I've like double watched.
Okay, yeah, I've double watched them all, but this might have been. I'm not going to rank them, but this was among my favorite.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's a lot of good moments in every episode. There hasn't been a bad one yet, but this and the pilot definitely stick out to me. Agreed.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through a couple of quick things. First off, if you like that song that we had in the beginning, I'm going to throw it up on the website. Like I said, we're definitely going to have a video coming out for it, so that'll end up on our YouTube page. You can check us out at any of that stuff, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Reddit. Just search Boob Tube Buddies. You'll find it. Or on our website at www.boobtubebuddies.com. And then, again, if you just want to email us, if you have any questions, as you saw, we will give you mega shout-outs. It's not like we're swimming in fan mail right now. boobtubebuddies@gmail.com. Just anything you got, send it over to us. And Mothman, anything else? I guess we didn't really talk about iTunes reviews. Really help. It takes like 45 seconds maybe for you to queue it up and do it. It makes a big difference for us, and we definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, it helps. It basically just helps when people search. For example, if they were to search Westworld, there are a handful of podcasts about Westworld.
More than a handful.
Handful about Walking Dead.
More than a handful.
So, yeah, okay, got it. A Skittles handful. Right? That's more apropos. Anyway, it helps us in the ranking of it. So my strong recommendation would be, if you have an iPhone, download every podcasting app that's free and subscribe on every single one.
Oh my God, cheating the system.
Hey, you become like a frozen penis army for us.
All right, well, I guess that's it. Mothman, why don't you tie a bow on this bitch?
We'll see you next time, little buddies.